Hey there YouTube, welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And well, I made my video on Christmas, talked about some of the games I'm into, the ones that I'm doing, and I had recently just finished painting and getting bardsung put together. And I played through a couple scenarios, and at that point, I'm getting ready to, I'm not going to say this is like a product review because it's not. It's just what I personally think of the game. Fact being, hey, I bought the game. I painted the minis. I completely own it. I can say what I want about it and basically give you my personal feeling on it, what I like, what I don't like, and why. So let's start there. And if you're new to the channel and you just found my channel and you like gaming content, don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, you guys like gaming content, click the like button and it's going to send more gaming videos your way. Alright, got that out of the way. Let's jump into bardsung. So, bardsung, and I wish I would have gotten this YouTube viewer's call sign because I would give him a shout out, but I didn't. I wasn't thinking about it at the time. When I read the comment, extremely oversimplified rules, and he was right, and I kind of knew that going in. I mean, the rule book is really not that thick. It's pretty thin. The concepts are pretty easy to grasp. As a matter of fact, you know, I'm going to say basic Dungeons and Dragons has a far more steep learning curve than what this game has to offer. And it says it's based off of 5e. Well, looking at it and playing through it, really the only thing that I personally have seen that I would even compare to 5e Dungeons and Dragons is the fact that it mentions disadvantaged rolls and advantaged rolls, and that's it. That's where, you know, it ends right there. Now, looking at the character dashboards, as I said in my last video, you know, you got your 6 main attributes: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, like you would find in any type of fantasy D20 table RPG. And there are aspects of this game I really do like. But the one thing I noticed, and it was very apparent when I got to the second chapter in this game, and let me see, this is the one I just finished up last night, which was Halls of the Dead, which, oh, no, there we go. Halls of the Dead. Here is the map of the dungeon. As you can see, there was a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rooms. Now I progressed to the next chapter, which is the Crone's Sanctum, which this is going to offer 3, 6, 9, 10. It's going to have 10 rooms, so it's going to be a larger dungeon crawling experience. But the one thing that was very apparent after this second playthrough, going through the chapter, is that the amount of I'm going to say money that was spent to make this game was focused on the models, the sculpts, which is good. For me, I love it. I love minis, I love painting them, collecting them, and I love 3D or three-dimensional representation on my game board to be able to play these games, which makes them very enjoyable for me. So that part I like. I really do like it. But it was very it was very apparent that where they cheapened on this game was, well, first and foremost, I'm just going to get this out of the way. I hate this. I hate this about this game, and that's this freaking game board that they give you to play on. It's horrible. This fold out bullcrap in 3 different sections as it folds out. It doesn't lay flat on your table. Some of the flaps pop up, which makes it very difficult to get the dungeon terrain that they do give you, which are these real thin cardboard tiles that at first they look decent, but after you play it for a while, they're just mediocre art, and it's just repeated throughout over and over on every tile, and it just feels cheap. And well, it was about halfway through the second chapter of playing this game I realized I was just completely unimpressed with the game board, the way the game board is laid out. It's cool the fact that the way the game is structured, that as your characters gain gold and experience by going through the dungeon, when the chapter ends and you have completed it, you spend the gold to be able to resupply your resources. Your resources being, let's go through that and discuss how that affects the game. And I'm going to pull this up in here and be able to show you, or I'm not going to really show you, but I'm going to explain it to you. So you have several resources to pull from. First and foremost, the most, I'm going to say, used resource that you are going to utilize a lot is which is called Fate. And burning up a Fate allows you to use your skills, it allows you to enhance attacks, it allows you to do a lot of things. And the cool thing is, as you go along and you collect treasure and gems and you connect those to weapons and other things, it gives you the ability to be able to replenish this Fate on a regular basis, really adding to the dynamic of the game and giving you a limited amount of resource but ways to replenish it as you go through too, which I do like that. That's pretty cool. The Fate thing does make a lot of sense to me for this game, and no complaints there. The other resources you have is your toolkit. So if you get to secret passageways, stuff like that, locked doors that you can't get past, you use your toolkit resource, and you have 3 tokens to be able to spend to get past some obstacles. And then of course the next one is what they call firewood. So at any time throughout the game, if there are no enemies in a room and your characters are wounded, you can set up camp. Setting up camp allows your characters to heal 1 point of damage, and also at that point end some conditions that they may have on them, whether it be poisoned or let me go through these. You can have poisoned, stunned, you could be fatigued, you got frost or burn, you got bane or weakened, so on and so forth. So it's a way to basically help your characters progress through the story without being completely discouraged because maybe halfway through it you've ran out of everything and lost and have to start over again. So it is cool, and it does kind of in the 5e thing with your long rest, your short rest, but it doesn't really talk about that. It's just you get 3 tokens throughout the game, and as you use them, you can heal 1 point of damage, end some conditions on you, your characters, and then move on. The other token that you have is your healing potion, which you got 3 of these tokens. Now, at any time, if a character falls in battle, basically is defeated, runs out of health, however you want to look at it, the scenario immediately ends and you lose. Or they put these healing potions in, and you can use the healing potion, healing all lost hit points against that character. They are basically, for a better word, resurrected, brought back into the game, and you can continue on. But they are a finite resource. And last but not least, you're given 3 tokens that are called a charm. A charm can be used to purchase at that time any other of the resources. So, for an example, you have 3 charm tokens. You completed the chapter, you don't have enough gold to replace, let's say, all your firewood. You had to camp several times. You burned up all 3 tokens, and you don't have enough money to be able to replenish all of them. But you have 3 charm tokens. So what you can do is you could spend 2 of them charm tokens, and at that point you could replenish 2 of your firewood tokens, or your healing potion, or your toolkit, or fate, however you want to use them, and then go back to playing. Now, that unto itself, I do like about the game. I do like that because you gain gold, and then at that point you have a reason to spend the gold. So as you move through the game, you're going to look at your resources dwindling, and it's going to give you that drive to want to continue going through the next room, keep defeating more and more enemies to gain more gold, to be able to purchase more resources, so on and so forth. That's a good system. I like it. What I don't like is you have this stupid game board. You got your tokens up here, and you got to reach over all this crap to be able to move them. And while you're doing that, you're dislodging your dungeon tiles, you're knocking cards over, you're making a complete mess of the freaking game board, because let's face it, this thing it's huge. It's like, I don't like the game board, I don't like the tiles. The other ridiculous thing that I saw about this that just made me laugh, and I was like, okay, was their dungeon doors. So there it is closed. There it is open. This isn't a dungeon door. This is a square piece of freaking cardboard that, let's face it, a little bit of water and this stuff's just gonna be mush. This is a dungeon door. 3-dimensional. Stand on its own. You can actually see it on the game board, and you know it's there. Now, the problem with these, the fact that the game board doesn't sit flat, the tokens get shifted around, it looks like crap, it's extremely frustrating to even use this, and there are other tokens that just, they're so vague. Let me see if I can find some more examples to show you here. There they are. Here are some better examples. So here are your stalactites. Really? This is crap. That's what this is. This is cheap crap. This is a stalactite. 3-dimensional, sits on your board. Will take up room in the dungeon corridor. Which is going to get me to my next complaint about this game. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't hate this game. I don't either. It's very simple. And comparing this game to another one, and I'm going to explain some of the concepts. I don't know if times have changed, or I don't know. Let's see. So I thought there was an age on this. Maybe there's not. Most of them will give you a recommended age that they feel as if the content is comprehensible for. So, and I thought this was ages 14 plus. I thought for this particular game. But let's look at a similar game. It's older. It's by every right, it's a classic these days. HeroScape. And yes, this is the original, all still there, all components are there. I mean, I have more sets that are open and loose and more miniatures, but this one is complete. Okay, so you can just tell by looking right off the bat, you're getting a quality miniature setup. And this game was designed for 8 years old or plus, And you had a far more robust three-dimensional game board that you were not limited to. The only limitation to what you created was your imagination and building this. And it even came with predetermined scenarios in the booklet that would show you how to build the terrain and use it, how to make the game board symmetrical so it's fair for both opponents at the table, versus what they give you with this, which is very restrictive. It's actually just very generic, very blah, I'm going to say. In a way, it takes away from the game, if you ask me. It cheapens it. There's also another aspect of this game that I personally want to change when I go to play my next scenario, and I want to add into it, because one thing I can admit about this, the rules are so basic, so simple, that it leaves a lot of room for house ruling. House rules you can add in. That is a good thing, but it lacks complexity. It really does. One of the many things is line of sight. No mention of line of sight. It mentions, hey, in order to pass from this area to this area, you have to go through a portal, otherwise known as a door. Okay. And you look at the range limits of your archers. Okay, so they have a range limit of 2 spaces. So with that in mind, they got a range limit of 2 spaces. What about the line of sight? So you're telling me if an enemy archer is in the next room, but even though he's 2 spaces from one of my heroes, that he can fire an arrow through a solid brick wall and hit my character with no line of sight. Now, nowhere in this rule book does it even mention line of sight. It doesn't give you any examples. It doesn't, bring any of these concepts. Whereas even in HeroScape, right here, it talks about that height advantage, line of sight. It adds different layers of complexity into it for even a beginner getting into the gaming hobby to be able to understand and move on to far more complex games, to where this game just, in my opinion, really focused a lot on the miniatures, and then the game was just more or less an afterthought. It was almost like, hey, we got these cool sculpts and these molds to make all these minis, what do we do with them? Well, let's make a game. Well, okay, let's skim over the most basic RPG book we can find and just water down the rules even far more and put it out there as a game. Which, maybe that's what bardsung was intended to be. Maybe it was, you buy the set, you get all the minis to help you with your RPG games, and then, well, take the game system as is or adapt it to your own. That I don't know. But anyways, I'm going to change that. I want to change it. I want to play this system the artichoke way. What do I mean by the artichoke way? Well, and I'm not knocking this game. I'm not saying I hate this game. What I'm saying is this game leaves a lot to be desired. Now, I have to admit, if you've never played a miniature skirmish game in your life, you have no conception of how these games are played or what to expect or what to do. Is it a good introductory area to start? Sure. But unfortunately, the way the rule book's laid out, it too itself is very vague, very, how do we put this? I have a problem with games, instead of having a rule book that's clear and concise, explaining the rules to you and the conceptions of the game and the game flow, they would rather just, well, here, play through this and you'll get the idea, and then after you get the idea, just go over here to this rule section and you can reference to it to get more ideas about what you're doing. Okay. If you ask me, that's just a lazy way to do it. Which would be a far better way to do it, would be to explain the rules to the player so they understand all of them going into the game table, and they have far more forward knowledge, I would say, when they get to the game table to be able to play it, which is going to make it more enjoyable, easier to teach other people, rather than, here you go, it's a game. Alright, but with that being said, what are the things I really do like about the game? Well, one of the things I can say about the game that I do like the fact that it is a very RPG-like system. Utilizes the 6 attributes, the fact that you have to utilize experience gained through the chapters to be able to update weapons, update skills, update attributes. That is cool. It's a reflection of your experience, the time spent, and it does really give you that sense of completion for your characters as you go through it. The other thing that I do like about it is the fact that they use 2 different cards that go with your dungeon tiles, whether your corridors and or your rooms. And let me get to that so I am pronouncing them all correctly, because there's one I always kind of struggle with, which is aspect battle cards, and then you have the aspect challenge cards. These are very cool. They add a different layer of complexity to the game. So even though you have discovered the room, you go in there, the legend tells you, the map legend, where to set the enemy model encounters, where they're going to be in the room when your characters first enter. But now you have this different layer on top of it, an environmental layer that's going to affect that room and your characters as well, adding a subtle layer of complexity to the game. And I really do like that. I really do. That is very interesting. I love the layout of the cards, how the card system works with the initiative, the fact that you do have these resources that are in limited quantity, and you have to be very careful throughout the game, which does add another layer of challenge to it. But where the game lacks, and where I want to add more, is a little bit more into line of sight, 3-dimensional representations, to where instead of just these models meandering across these basic tile shapes across your board, it's going to add far more depth into it and make it, in my opinion, a better game. And we're going to find out, because I finished up the 2nd chapter last night. I'm beginning the 3rd chapter, which I said is the Crone's Sanctum, and I'm going to go into that. So I'm going to play a couple of rooms through so you can see how the game actually works. And if you own the game, maybe this will give you some ideas for your game board, and maybe how to tweak this game a little bit to make it more enjoyable for you. And I know it probably will for me. And last but not least, the last thing I have to say, the mechanic that I do like about this game, is the fact that you have a wandering monster deck that you build to each scenario, and you have what's called an echo token. Now, this is very, very interesting. After your turn ends, you roll a d6. Anytime you roll a 1 and or 2, it's at that point a wandering encounter enters the board on the start tile. After each turn, you're going to roll this d6. Now, the way that the rules are written, because some of the dungeon tiles have pipes in them, and there's terrain features that will affect your characters. If you roll a 6, it at that point activates these terrain features, which are sad, to say the least. And on a 1 or a 2, it activates the wandering monster. And the cool thing I like to do is put the token on the home page. If I roll a 1, there's a token. I don't know what the wandering monster is yet. I have no idea. If I roll another 1 or a 2 and it moves out of the starting area into a corridor, at that point I draw a card and put it on the board. So now I can put a face to the impending doom that's heading towards my character's way, which just makes it more interesting for me, if you will. And I think with that being said, it's time to head on over to the board, and yeah, let's see what we can do with this game to make it a better game rather than what it is. Okay, so let's jump into this. This is the chapter I'm currently in, Chapter 8, The Crone's Sanctum. So you stand at the threshold of the Crone's inner sanctum. The sulfurous scent is stronger here than ever. A deadly energy that speaks of a great pain and suffering, and which has festered for so many moons. It's become pure, corrosive hatred. But your heart remains pure. Your pact to better the lives of the villagers firm in your mind. You will not only rescue them from the Crone's influence, but in turn also free her from the suffocating gasp of her own rage. Okay, so there's the introduction. It says, there is no turning back now, but you are not in her deadly presence just yet, and there remains trials ahead. Before you, a rickety old lift is suspended over a yawning chasm. Its metal is rusted and dull, a remnant from the original workings of the ancient forge, corrupted by the dark energy now pervading this place. On first sight, it appears the lift is broken, but on closer inspection, it seems to be operated by some kind of mechanism which will need to be activated before it will lower you down to the Crone's lair. To your left and right, narrow pathways lead to parts unknown. Perhaps the answer lie in one of these directions. Okay, so there we go. Down here, it's going to give us the quick summary of the cards, the challenge aspect deck, the battle aspect deck, lost treasure cards, and special rules, which will be if I complete this entire map right here to draw this card and read it. But first and foremost, we're starting here at 8A, and you have to look at these ruin symbols because these are going to tell you exactly how to set up the room. Now, I have not drawn the room card yet, but I have everything set up from the two challenge aspect deck cards right here. They told me to pull with the two counters. I'm not using the tokens for this. I'm just going to use dice instead to me, which is an easier way to keep track of, and you're not chasing cardboard tokens all over the place. Get the dice out there, and first and foremost, looking at the map, you can see there's a set of stairs telling you that there's a set of stairs that descends down into this area. So here it is. Here are my characters. Here is the staircase. They are descending down into this area. So first thing is first, have all my cards pulled, ready to go. Have them right here in my little card organizer, and let's go to the room first. And I have to draw, just draw one off the top, see? No. So as you can see by this, there's no ruins in here indicating enemies. One of the stipulations of this encounter is there have to be enemies in the room. So let's see what we have here. Perfect. There we go. Perfectly square room. And let's set up our enemies accordingly. And I have the chart for that. But first things first. So normally I would be looking at this symbol right here, and on top of the two aspect challenges, I'm going to have to pull also a battle aspect card to go with this as well. So I'm going to set that right over here for now, and we'll deal with that in a moment. But right now, let's build the dungeon room. Now, typically they break this up into zones, so this would be 1 zone, 2 zone, 3 zone, 4 zone, It'd be total of 4 zones. Now, if I was to break that up into movement, that would be 4 squares by 4 squares here. And it's kind of like, so I got to think of a conversion to use for miniature movement. So why not just use the typical D20 standard system of movement, 30 feet, and each square representing 5 feet, so that would be more than fair to give me enough room in this dungeon room to be able to create this. So let's do that. The other thing I'm noticing too, as you can see right here, there is a doorway leading out, or I should say an area for a door. So first and foremost, let's set this up. So they descend down into here, and we're going to set it up in the center of the board. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, it should be 5 right there. So we're going to set up a room like so. Put a doorway right here. And what else do we have in this area? Well, besides some pipes, it doesn't look like a whole lot going on in there other than a set of stairs leading down. It looks like what's supposed to be a lava pit or something in the center. And some, and a whole lot of really nothing. But let's look at the encounters we're going to have. So, taking the updated list that I have right here. So the 2 small X's will correspond right here to a shadow. So let me get a shadow mini. And the shadow mini is going to go over here. The next one I'm going to have is what looks like 2M. Looks like an M with an X through it. So M with an X through it is going to be a rotting brute. And that's going to be right here by the doorway. Now, I have another one right here, which is another rotting brute, which is going to go right there. So, but let's fill in that corner a little bit. Let's actually, let's do something like this instead. We can move this here over a little bit, make it a little bit more three-dimensional, and more interesting for my taste. Alright, so now the brute is, as you can see, out of the line of sight. You can't see him. All I can see is through the doorway, so I can currently see this guy right here. The shadow is back here, which is beyond the line of sight, which is actually going to set this card up and represent it a whole hell of a lot better than I think what the tile actually will. Now the only thing I got to resolve is there's something right here in the center of the room. You can move through it. It's considered a zone. So what do I want to put there? Why not a column? So let's put a column there. Blammo. Alright. That part is done. Pretty straightforward. And basically how these counters work is after every round these are going to tick down, and then after 2 rounds I'm going to you can follow the instruction off of these cards, but let's take a look at the battle aspect before you even start pull initiative cards out and start setting up the creature cards for the initiative round. So, Vigorous Mortis. On Holy Vigor, grass these creatures, healing the most ghastly wounds. Place 3 timer tokens on this card. Oh, jeez. When an enemy is defeated, discard its tokens and place the model on its side. A hero in the same zone as an enemy on its side can spend an action to remove the model from the playing area. At the end of each round, stand up any models on their side. Then discard an equal number of tokens from this card. These enemies continue to take turns as normal. When there are no tokens on this card, discard it. Okay, so I can see how this is going to go. So I'm going to set this one over here. I'm going to put a D6 on it, and it's going to start with 3 tokens right there, as it says. Place 3 timer tokens. So to give it to it just, I could knock down 3 of these enemies, burn up all them tokens, and place them upright, unless my character is right next to him, one of my characters, and removes it from the game. Yeesh, that's going to be a little rough. But now that I look at this right here, I think I'm going to get that out of the way just for so you guys can see better. And yeah, okay, well, let's get into the character. Let me get the character set up. So I have Lightweaver, which is basically the magic user, which is this guy right here. Put that there. Get his card set up. I also have, which we consider an NPC, or in earlier versions of D&D, which they would call a henchman, a follower, whatever you want to call it. This is the Chronicler. So at the start of each round, flip an exhausted fate token to the active side, which is cool because one of his attacks I like to use, he has to use fate in order to use it. So this works out very well. Now when you go to use them, I have to tap them, and that will stay tapped for the remainder of the round until the round is over, and then everything goes back to its normal side, and that goes with that character card in the initiative lineup. My second guy here is Stoneheart, which is the fighter, which you see right here. And Stoneheart is pretty good. It's definitely a tank. So the most commonly used attack that I do use for him is the Balanced Strike, which is by far, in my opinion, so far the best. There's a lot more cards that have to be updated yet. Not updated, but room for improvement. But so far I found that's one of the best attacks. His weapons he's using is this Ancestral Axe, which I have equipped this Sapphire Cluster to, and gives him a +2 to his attack rolls. Next one I'm using is Night Feather, which is a rogue. This guy by far is my favorite of all of them. It took me, I have to say, by the end of the first chapter, about halfway through it is when I really started to learn how to use him. And then once I did, by far, I think he's one of the best characters. Now, there's still 2 characters in the set I have yet to use. I chose these first 3 to go through this scenario. Magic user, a fighter or a tank, and a rogue, which seemed to be by far the most balanced. But I have to admit, Night Feather is definitely one of my favorite characters. He is very, very versatile. So the equipment that he is using is the Raven's Talon, which I have equipped a Sapphire Cluster, which gives him a +2 to his attack roll. And then this is another weapon in which he carries, which is called the Crow's Murder, which is just a unique looking knife like that. And I have equipped the Sapphire to it, which gives him a +1 to this attack roll. So depending on which weapon he is using, but most of the time this is my primary weapon, Raven's Talon right here. Alright, so there is one NPC and or henchman I forgot to tell you about that I have equipped the Night Feather, and that is the Shield Bearer. So once per round, a hero can make a defense roll with advantage, which is really good to have on your rogue. So let's get this underway. Let's get the initiative cards all shuffled up, and alright, so let's go to the round of initiative. The very first model to move is Stormheart. The second one will be the Rotting Brute. The third one, this is second wind, so when you play solo, you can take another turn with one of your characters. So I always put this behind the very last character card that is drawn in the initiative. And then after they have all taken their turn, then this can be utilized. So I'm going to set this aside. Third one in the initiative round is the Shadow. The fourth one is Night Feather. And last but not least is Lightyear. So let's start with the top of the batting order, which will be Stoneheart. Now I can go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. As I enter the room, 30. That is my movement. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to do attack. And believe it or not, this game is so simple. It's very, very simple game to understand and pick up on fairly quickly. I have to admit that. So let me get my stuff orientated here, because I should have done this before, but you know, they say hindsight's 20/20. Okay, so the Rotting Brute, when you read these cards, it's very simple. 14 is the target number, so which means I have to roll a 14 or better with all my bonuses in order to hit this. This is the same thing when it's the enemy's turn. When it's the enemy's turn, I have to roll a defense, same number. Everything else here does tell you something, such as right here, he has one movement, which one movement, I'm going to split that. Instead of 30 feet, he'll be able to move 15 feet. Or I could even go less, go like 10 feet, which would probably be more realistic, considering the average movement is about 3 feet. So if I was to get a critical hit, my damage for my weapon has to exceed 6 or better to do a critical hit on him. If not, a regular hit does, as you can see here, 1 point of damage. Critical hit does 2. Now, all models, unless otherwise specified, 2 hits will take a model out. Now, some models have double sides to them, which they call them heat up, which I can get an example to show you here, like this giant spider. This giant spider will actually take 4 hits to kill. Now, after 2 hits are received on this side, the card flips over, and then at that point, it's going to take an additional 2 hits to take him out before he is done. So it's very simple game to understand and to pick up here. The only thing that you really have to do is you really have to read the captions on the cards, and then these various symbols will tell you different things, such as like the swarm of flies. If this enemy suffers a wound, heroes in the same zone must make a target number 9 defense action roll. If they fail, they suffer pushback, which is what that is telling you. That arrow is that they suffer pushback. So, and then of course, if we look right here, we're going to see these other icons. This does also tell you something. with these set of cards, you just match up these icons. This is the AI that tells you how the model is going to react and who it's going to attack next, how it's going to move on the board, and it's going to do all of those things. So you can see what I mean by this is a very straightforward game that has a lot of ability to be able to do some house ruling. So I got Ferocious, and then this guy right here, he's going to actually have 2 cards for the Rotting Brute. And how this works is if you look at these symbols right here, let me get my thumb out of the way so you can see it. You see what you look like an exclamation mark here, and then below it, which would almost look like if you're using Google Maps, where you would drop your waypoint. Now, what these tell you is like this one is cautious, so he will attack the closest hero, or he will move until the closest hero is in an attack range. But then after that is complete, whatever you resolve, you go to the next card and resolve that. So he has reposition. So move towards a hero in an unengaged zone, or move towards a hero in an engaged zone. So very simple. It has its own AI built into the models, how they're going to respond to your characters and move around the board and all that, which makes this a cooperative or a very good solo game. But anyways, let's finally get into the game. I wanted to get that explained and out of the way so everybody would know where we're at, what I'm doing, and why I'm doing it. Okay, so I'm going to go attack him, and I'm going to use my balanced strike. My balanced strike, and looking at my card here, this is a melee attack. I can add my strength bonus into it, which I got a strength bonus of a +3, but I'm going to use my ancestral axe right here, which is going to give me a +2 to my roll. So let's see how this all plays out. First roll. Let me see if I can get this where we can all see the die roll. There we go. Perfect. Oh, a 5 is not going to do it. Even with a +2, it's a 7. So he has definitely missed, and yeah. Let's see what happens next, because the next one in the batting order is the Rotting Brute. So I'm going to tap the Rotting Brute card. First one on there is attack the closest hero, which is obviously going to be him. And I'm going to have to roll a defense roll. My defense roll will be a 14. I have a bonus of 3 to my defense, so a +3 to my armor. So I could look at it this way. I got to have an 11 or better to be able to pass this. Let's see what happens here. I have rolled a 7 +3, 10. Well, I need a 14. That's not exactly going to work, and unfortunately, I am going to take 1 wound that's going to be added to Stoneheart. Now I have 5, if you want to look at it, hit points. I have 5 hit points before my character is knocked down. But the good thing is I do have a little bit of wiggle room here, because what I did setting this up, and I got rid of the other game board to give myself more room and make this more of an enjoyable game to play. I got out my little piece of notebook paper. I scratched everything down. I spent the gold and I refreshed everything. So I got 3 healing potions, 3 toolkits, 3 firewoods, 3 fates. My reputation is at a 4. My starting gold is at a 7, and I spent all my XP updating my characters. So yeah, we're gonna have to work to get more XP. Anyways, that is over. The next turn is going to be the shadow right here. As we can see with the shadow, its target number is a 10. It can move 3. Its critical hit is a 3. Now this has what's called ghostly talons, so heroes cannot add armor modifiers to their defense roll when attacked by this enemy. This is going to hurt. And following the card, he is a ferocious, so attack hero in the same zone. Well, if you were to look at the tiles that they give you, how they break these up, they call them their zones. Here, 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 here. What I'm going to do is, instead of the same zone, adjacent. Attack the same adjacent hero, which he's not adjacent to him. Charge hero in an on-engage zone. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to move and attack him. So the shadow moves over here. I cannot use my armor defense for this attack, so I'm going to have to roll a 10 or better to be able to survive this attack. 16. Okay, so I was able to survive that attack, but there's one thing I did forget, and that is this other rotting brute over here. I had already take his initiative order, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move him, because he can only move one, so I'm going to go 5, 10. He moves very slow. I'm going to move him right there, and he's going to be heading towards the fight. So that's where that is. Tap the shadow card out. Next one is Nightfeather, which is him right there. He's pretty nimble. He can move really quick. The typical game, he can move 3 zones, which is pretty huge. But how I'm going to use that in this game board is I'm going to say he's able to move 40 feet instead of the normal 30. But he can see his buddy is in some dire trouble here. So looking at this, I'm thinking the best course of action is to go after the shadow, considering the shadow can put a huge hurt to this guy, considering he cannot use armor. So I'm going to move Nightfeather and go 5, 10. I am going to use my piercing strike attack here, and I do get to add my dexterity bonus into this roll, which is a +2. And then using the Raven's Talon, I get a +2 to attack. So I'm going to get a total of a +4 to the roll. So let's see what we get. Oh, right there you can see that little symbol, the bardsung symbol, which means that is a 20. Now here's the cool thing about this. You get these little fate tokens like so, and if you use one, you're going to turn it over, which shows it's exhausted. And if you roll a 20 or a 1 at any time, you unexhaust 1 fate token. So even if you miss horribly, you still get something out of it. But I don't have any exhausted fate tokens, so that's not going to matter. But I definitely hit that shadow. So now, if the target is the only enemy that is adjacent, which currently it is, I'm going to say that they say same zone. I'm going to say adjacent because here is Stoneheart, and then he is there. He has no other, we'll say, compadres around him to help him. So he is adjacent. The attack roll can be re-rolled and add a +2 to the damage roll. So how I resolve this is I roll 2d6, taking the highest and adding 2 to it. So let's see what we get. Oh, a 1 and the 6. You know which one I'm taking. I'm taking the 6 +2 is 8. So his critical right here is a 3. I'm doing 8 points of damage, which is way more than critical. And with a critical hit right here, as you can see, I do 2 points of damage, and then I'm able to back up 5 feet to get myself out of harm's way, if you will. So this model is gone off the board. This card's going to come out of the initiative lineup and go back to the vault, as they call it. And we do get 1 gold, which is very good. So I'm going to add my 1 gold. Now, if you are familiar with this game, if you own this game, if you play this game, if you're thinking about getting this game, what have you, One thing I'm going to stress about this is you should utilize your gold and your XP, kind of like if you think about Monopoly, like one person's the banker and the other would be the real estate holder that's going to hold all the cards and manage the real estate cards. I do the same thing. I've elected Stoneheart. All the gold goes onto their character board, and I keep track of that, and then all the treasure goes to Nightfeather, and then at the end I divvy it up that way. It just makes it so much easier than throwing tokens just anywhere on the board to keep track of them, and it's just it's easier to keep track of, especially when you do solo. Alright, so that takes care of that, and that will be Nightfeather's turn. Last but not least will be Light Weaver, and then we'll resolve the second wind. So Light Weaver, I already know what I'm going to do. I love this attack roll. It's pretty much the only one that I do use for Light Weaver, and that is going to be Arcane Bolt. But with Arcane Bolt, I have to use, as you can see here, a token fate. Okay, so this is an attack, it's magical. I can add my intelligence bonus to it, which will be a +3, but I have to use a fate. So, what I'm going to do is, I have them here off camera, you can't see them, but here's Bard token. I'm going to turn that over to the exhausted side. I'm going to burn 1 fate, and because of the topaz, the hero can re-roll their first attack roll each turn. Okay, so to make it simpler, I just do an advantage roll, rolling 2d20 and taking the highest of the two. But first I'm going to move them. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, get out of there, 30. So there's the staircase. I'm done with the staircase now. I can actually get this out of the way. Unless the map calls for any further staircases, it will not be needed. So right here, to just end some confusion, I'm going to say what we're looking at is boom, like so. This is the doorway, and he is behind here, behind this corner. So I'm going to have Lightweaver right here, which, looking at it on this angle, we'll have a line of sight of him for the spell. But I'm going to roll with advantage. Let's see what we get. Oh, got a 20, which is cool because I can automatically, you got it, unexhaust that. And a 1. So if I had 2 fate tokens that were exhausted, I could actually turn 2 of them over. But, dang went. Just notice that. Alright. So, we're going to take the 20. Now I have to roll for my damage. And with the Arcane Bolt, when making a damage roll, roll an extra d6 and discard the die with the lowest result, which is, this is what I love about this spell. So I'm going to roll 2d6, taking the highest. Okay, it'll be a 3. So taking 3, and looking at the Rotting Brute's critical, so 3 plus my intelligence modifier is another 3, which will bring it to 6, which is 6. This will do a critical hit, but here's the bad part about this. Swarm of Flies. If this enemy suffers a wound, heroes in the same zone make a target number 9 defense action roll. If they fail, they suffer pushback. Okay, so let's resolve that, because that model is going to be off the board. I will gain another gold coin as a result of that, so I will just resolve that right now, and then we're going to resolve the pushback. Okay. So, Night Feather, he has a +1, actually +2 for his armor, because I just recently updated that. So, he's going to have to roll a 7 or better. He rolled a 2. No, he's going to suffer pushback. He's going to be blasted right back out the door. Okay, Lightweaver, I did update some armor 2 because it has a plus. He has a +1 to. Let's see what we get. A 4. No. Blammo. Alright, and last but not least, I have Stoneheart. Stoneheart has +3 to the armor value, so let's see how that works. A 15, yeah. Stoneheart doesn't even flinch on that. Okay. Now this model can come off the board. Alrighty. So now, one model left, which is, but this is only the first round, so I can reduce, if you remember these. Oh, I did that wrong. Models did not come off the board. Models are actually turned on their sides. Remember that? Now, as the round restarts, and if you remember these cards right here that had the counters, so 1 and 1. So I'm going to tick them both down to 1, and then next turn it's going to get interesting again. So I can put the shadow. Wait a minute, I can take 1 out of the game now that I'm thinking about it, because I forgot. Second Wind. I'm going to utilize Second Wind on Stoneheart. Stoneheart is going to remove the shadow from the game, and then at that point that will take it down to 2 counters on this card right here that can be brought back, which is actually going to bring it down to 1, because this guy is going to reactivate this round. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's redo the initiative shuffle here. Get all the cards. Okay, so the initiative order will go Night Feather. Next in round is Second Wind, which will go to the end. Rotting Brute, which will be up next, followed by Stoneheart. Last but not least, Lightweaver. Now the very first thing I don't have to do it, that's right, because of the rolls I don't have any exhausted fate tokens. What I would normally do, and the reason why I was going to say that, is I have this Chronicler. I would tap that Chronicler, and that would allow me to reset one of them fate tokens, so I could use my Arcane Bolt spell again and still leave 2 fate tokens for my other characters if needed be. But first one's going to be Night Feather, and this guy, boom, is back up on his feet and ready to battle again. So I'm going to help out Stoneheart here. He's going to go 5, 10, 15, and I'm going to make an attack roll on him, and target number is a 14. I am going to get 2 plus 2. I'm going to get a +4 to that hit. Well, it's going to bring it to a 7. That's not going to do anything. Luckily, with this card, if you miss, you can see right there, I can actually back him up 5 feet, I'll say, that way. So he is out of melee range. And now that he has taken his turn, the next one in order are the Rotting Brutes. Being boom. Obviously, he is adjacent to him, and he is going to move up here in an adjacent position. And now, unfortunately, my as you can see right there, let's move it. I think everybody knows there's a doorway right here that they can see through. Right now he's going to be taking an onslaught of 2 hits from Rotting Brutes. Okay, so he's going to roll 2 defense rolls at 14 or better. Let's see how Stoneheart fares through this. Okay, first roll, a 4. Ooh, 4 plus 3 is a 7. No, that does not work. Second hit. What did I get? What did I get? Another 4. Okay, so I'm going to take a total of 2 more points of damage. Ouch. I can foresee it can't happening after this encounter. The only reason why I say it is if you look at Stoneheart, my life is only 5 points. I'm more than half. I've already sustained 3 points of damage so far, and this is only the first room. Okay, so next in the batting order is Stoneheart. Stoneheart is going to obviously attack, but I'm going to use a different attack this time. I'm going to use backswing. Backswing, I do have to burn up a fate for that, but if the attack hits after resolving the effects, apply the same effects to another enemy in the same zone. Which I said, when it refers to zones, I'm going to say that's adjacent. If you have an adjacent model to your character, which, as you can see, we do here. So, burn up 1 fate. And I am going to get a +2 to the roll. So come on. Oh my god. That would be 7. That's just horrible. Yeah, I missed. I think at this point my best course of action is to try to shit, I forgot to use that last time, which I should have. I forgot to utilize this right here, where when this hero suffers a wound, they can dodge, and just like what Nightfeather can do, get out of the range of attack. So now I'm going to be left with one choice, and that is to see if I can do a breakaway, which I'm going to do 1 roll, see if I can back out of this situation, get out of the line of fire before I have to utilize a health potion. So same thing, target number is a 14. If I had any dexterity bonus, I'd be able to add that to it, but I don't, so let's just see what I get. A 3. Yeah, no, he's stuck. Okay, well, looks like it's up to Lightweaver now. Lightweaver's going to tap out the Chronicler card, which is going to reset the fate token, and he's going to, let's put this back up, some template, yeah, plenty of line of sight, boom. I am going to use the Arcane Bolt again, and I'm going to burn up a fate for that. I'm going to roll with advantage. Oh, got a 9 and a 15. I will be taking the 15. Now I'm going to roll my damage, 2d6, taking the highest, adding 3 to it. Okay, so we got a 3. That will be a 6. The critical hit value for the brute is a 6. So I'm going to do a critical hit, which will be 2 points, which will, boom, knock this model down. Now I'm going to gain a gold coin for that. No, I won't, because I already collected a coin. I'm sorry. So I will not gain a coin. But we have to roll to resolve this, target number 9 to see if any of them suffer blowback from the swarm of flies coming off of that. So we'll start with Lightweaver, gets a +1 to the defense roll, rolls an 8, +1 is a 9, Lightweaver makes it. Stoneheart gets a +3. Oh, she's so Pete. Well, the good thing is I get to flip a fate token over, but yeah, Stoneheart is just blown right back where Night Feather is. So now I have to do Night Feathers. Witted Night Feather. How did Night Feather fare? So I get a +1 for the armor. 14. I'm going to take that. He's successful, so which worked out actually because I got Stoneheart out of the line of fire, if you will. Now, I gotta do something. I think I'm gonna actually put this on Stone Feather is what I'm going to do, and I'm gonna put the second wind on Stone Feather. I'm gonna have Stone Feather go boom, boom. Night Feather. I don't know why I kept calling it Stone Feather. It's Night Feather. And I'm going to remove this model from the game. So now it is gone. Now, before I do the initiative, the counter has clicked down, and we have to see what else is going to get interesting here. So let's resolve this one first, which is going to be 213. Gate crash. Something has been drawn to the sound of battle. When a new tile is placed, add a timer token to this card for each enemy on the playing area. At the end of each round, roll a d6 and subtract -1 for each token on this card. If the result is a 1, discard each token, then shuffle the Wandering Monster deck and draw a card as though the event roll had failed. Okay, so currently I have 1. So this is going to go over here. I am going to move... I'll just put a d6 over there to show it has 1 counter on that currently. And that is the gate crash. Now, let's see what 214 has. Outlast. Can you survive this onslaught? At the start of the end phase, discard a token from this card. If there are no tokens to discard and there are fewer than 4 tiles on the playing area, place a new room tile as described in the encounter setup, then place 2 timer tokens on this card. If there are 4 tiles in play, the heroes complete the encounter. Okay, so if there are no tokens to discard, which I have 1 token right here, but we've gone through the 2 turns which have ran my timer tokens out. So if there are no tokens to discard and there are fewer than 4 tiles on the playing area, which there is, place a new room tile as described in the encounter setup. So what that's saying, this is going to be interesting, is so in the beginning, when I set this up, and if you look at this ruin, and I had to go to the specific setup in the beginning of the book that tells you how to set it up, but because of where the description fits, I'm going to set up another room like this, which will be the next one, and then at that point we're going to replay this all over again, but with different enemies in the room. well, no, I'm sorry, there will not be different enemies in the room, but unfortunately we don't know how the battle aspect is going to change it, which is this card right here that I had to draw, which is causing these guys to resurrect. So it could be an entirely different set of circumstances, and we'll have to see how that plays out. But regardless, that just means this card, sorry, this Outlast card just keeps living on. It's just, oh man. Okay, so anyways, that was the end of the initiative round. Now I get to redo the initiative all over again, and let's see. Okay, so far I have to admit, with the setup I have going on here, this is way easier than the other way with the board that's just has the floppy edges that flop everywhere and all that. And I know they make a neoprene mat for this game to replace that. I know some people may say, well, why not just get the neoprene mat? Well, I've already spent a decent amount of money on this game. Why am I going to spend even more when I already have better solutions that I already own that, if you ask me, are more aesthetically pleasing? Alright, first and foremost, let's see who goes first. Lightweaver, followed by Night Feather. Second Wind, which goes to the end. Third in the initiative row is a Rotting Brute, followed by Stoneheart. Okay. So Lightweaver gets to go first, and I'm going to burn up a Fate. I'm going to cast Arcane Bolt, which I do every time, because I really like the Arcane Bolt. I'm going to roll with advantage. Pow! Oh yeah, we're going to take the 19. I'm going to roll my damage. 2d6. Okay, taking the 5, adding 3, which is 8. It's critical at 6. I have criticaled. This model is knocked onto its side. I will gain a coin. And that will be the end of Lightweaver's turn, which is where Night Feather will pick up. And I'm just going to move Light Feather into here. This model will be permanently removed from the game, emptying this room out of encounters. Now I can get rid of this. This can be put into the discard pile right here, because this has now been resolved. And I'll just start my discard pile over here. Okay, now let's see right here. Okay, so now that is resolved. There's no treasure in the room, anything like that on the map board, on the map to indicate that. So besides the gold coins that I have picked up, but let's take a look and see if I gained anything else. So as you can see right here, I have completed encounters 1. I have completed 1 encounter. We gain 1 XP. So I'm going to add the XP onto Lightweaver's board, and Lightweaver keeps all the XP. Stoneheart is the banker holding all the gold coin, and Night Feather holds the treasure on their hero boards, which is really a better way to do it. This is going to stay in play. Which is going to change is the corridor card. So this goes back to the Outlast right here, which is going to remain in play. And of course, last but not least, Gate Crash, which is over here, which has to be resolved as well. Okay, so the Rotting Brute is done. That could go back to the vault, as they call it, of cards, which is just a stack of cards, in my opinion, if you ask me. And Stoneheart is the last one. What we are going to do is I'm going to move everybody into here, and we're going to do a camp. So, there we go. There's the fire. And I get to remove one of the wounds from Stoneheart. And nobody else has any wounds or conditions, so yeah, it's kind of a waste, but it's kind of not, because, you know, I'm only into the first dungeon of this, and he's almost more than halfway badly hurt, so it's in my best interest to try to make this last as long as I can. So we're gonna go to firewood, and so here's my firewood. We did have 3. I am now down to 2, and blammo, there we go. Now currently I know another room is coming up. I know how to set this other room up already based off of this, from this staying in play. Looking at the map, I can make a decision of which way I want to go, because this is the room I currently completed. And I can either go this way where there is treasure, or we can go this way, enter this room. Either room I go into, I already know how the room is going to be set up. The difference is this has a story heading to it. This one has treasure. So I'm thinking, let's go the way that's going to pay off. So let's head towards this room that actually has the treasure and a story heading to it, and see where it takes us. So the next, now that the campfire has been resolved and I healed some, I can now reset my initiative order, because there are no threats. So I'm going to go Nightfeather, Stoneheart, Lightweaver, and then if there is an encounter, I will resolve that. Okay, so top of the initiative order is Nightfeather. Nightfeather's going to go over here, making his movement. He's going to spend his other action to open the door. Now, how this is going to work, this was the starting dungeon room here. Now this is going to actually move down here out of sight in front of the camera. My guys are going to be right here. I could probably move that up just there. We go. Give ourselves more room. Just set that there, out of the way of the field of vision. And now I have to pull and resolve a corridor card. So here is my corridor card. You see it's a 90-degree turn, as so. And looking at this, there are some encounters in that room. So looking at this, there's going to be a zombie brigand and another rotting brute. Yay! So let's set up that tile. This is where the warlock tiles are going to come in perfect for this. So it's going to be a 90-degree room. So it's going to go boom. I'm going to make this a little bit simpler. Let's say there. Boom. Boom. Yeah, that will do it. That will definitely do it. And then I will just corner this off like so to finish that off. And have a zombie brigand, which will be here, and what was that other one? No, that's right, rotting brute. I don't know how I forgot that. Which will be here, like so. Okay, so now I can pull them cards and add them into the initiative. Zombie brute, zombie brigand. Pull up my initiative cards and now one other thing I have to remember. As you can see down here by this little symbol, there is another battle aspect card that's going to go into this. So I'm going to draw that. Set that right here, because that's going to have to be resolved. And I'm just going to do the initiative, and then we'll see what that has to offer for this corridor. Okay. First top the batting order, Stoneheart, followed by Nightfeather, Lightweaver, Zombie Brigand, and the Rotting Brute. Now, as I said, when it comes to playing this, you really have to read the caption on the cards. If you don't, you're gonna figure out real quick. You'll miss certain aspects of it. And with the Zombie Brigand, it says, Lurching Gate. After shuffling the marching order, this enemy suffers pushback, which means he's always going to be the last in the initiative order. So it's going to go Rotting Brute, followed by him. Alright. Now, let's see what the battle aspect card is. Cursed Gold. So all that gold does not glitter. Worse, still, if the glitter is sticky green, the next time an enemy card is removed from the marching order, the heroes do not gain gold. Then this card is discarded. Oh, well, that sucks. Okay, so we'll just leave that here, and after the first enemy is taken out, we'll discard that card. Alright, top of the batting order, which is going to be Stoneheart. Well, the closest enemy, obviously, to me is the Brute. So I'm going to take the Brute out first. I will send Stoneheart in there to do that. So we'll go 5, 10. And he's going to get +2 using the Ancestral Axe. And I'm going to use Balanced Strike. Balanced Strike does not require me to use Fate or anything like that. Don't mind me, just dropping these little itty bitty cards. I mean, these things are... I get it. They're very small and hard to hold on to. Okay, so let's get a roll underway here and see how I do. As a matter of fact, I'm going to use this dice. It seems to be rolling way better tonight than the other one that has just royally screwed me over. So I get a +2 to my roll. My target number is a 14 for the Rotting Brute. I have rolled a natural 16. Alright, so now I'm going to go to the damage phase, and he gets to roll a d8 for damage. I don't see a d8. Oh, there it is. There's the d8, and I get to add 3. 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so his critical number is a 6. I have done double that. I've done 2 points of damage, which removes the model from the game. Also removes the cursed gold, because I'm not going to get the gold coin I would normally get from the character. Get out from underneath there. So this one is discarded. That has been resolved. But I do have to roll the target number from him to see if he's blown back from the swarm of flies. So that's going to be a defense roll. Target number 9. He gets +3 bonus for his armor. So I have to have a 6 or better. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Okay. So he is blown right back down the corridor into the room, and that will end his turn. And I can take the Rotting Brute out of the lineup. Next one will be Night Feather. Night Feather is going to move in 5, 10, 15, and I'm going to do a Piercing Strike using my Raven's Talon. I get a +2 to my attack roll. In the Piercing Strike, I can also add my Dexterity bonus into that, so he gets a +4 to this attack roll. So 15, yeah, that hits. The Zombie Brigand has a 10. His critical is a 3. So if the target is the only enemy, which he is, he's adjacent to, I can, you can basically roll 1d6. If you don't like it, roll another one and add 2. Okay, so what I do is I roll 2d6, taking the higher of the 2 and adding 2. 4. Add 2, which is 6. Which 6 is well beyond his critical threshold, which is 3. So he does 2 points of damage. He gets to move back 5 feet, and he is out of the game. And the corridor is clear, and I do get 1 gold coin out of that encounter. Alrighty. Wow. Now that that is finally resolved. That was the corridor. That was the challenge aspect. This card can be discarded. This card is going to get replayed again because of Outlast, and we got Gatecrash. So let me grab some more. room corners here, and let's add this over here. So looking at the card, I gotta line this up. So if leading out of this it made a 90-degree this way, that means coming in it would be this way. Not that that matters, but we're gonna put 90-degree wall there. I'm gonna say a 90-degree wall like so, and I'm gonna have a door that's gonna be here, and we are going to have two rotting brutes, one which will be by the door, boom, one that will be right here, and then of course, last but not least, the shadow, which will be right over here. Alright, so finishing out my initiative phase, the last one to move, which will be Lightweaver, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I'm going to keep Lightweaver right there. Currently in the doorway right here in the line of sight. Lightweaver does have line of sight of here. Now it's a range of 2, which they would call 2 zones based on that. So I'm going to just break that up and make it far more simple and just say 30 feet. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So if it was outside of this area right here, it would be well out of range, which it's not. And then after this attack is done, I'm going to recast the initiative order. But before I even get to that, let's get these cards set up. I have to draw another battle aspect card for how that's going to affect this room. But Outlast. Can you survive the onslaught? At the start of the end phase, discard a token from this card. If there are no tokens to discard. Okay. And there are blah, 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 blah. We already resolved that, so I can say this is done. That was a different card. Here is the room. Gate crash. This is the one, the last one I have to resolve. Okay, something has been drawn to the sound of battle. When a new tile is placed, add a timer token to this card for each enemy on the playing area. At the end of each round, roll a d6, subtract 1. Okay, so there are currently 3, so that's going to move this up. Boom. 2, 3. So basically what that means is at the end of the round, the first initiative round, I'm going to roll a d6. On a 1 or a 2, a random encounter at that point will be brought into the game here, into this room, and then can start moving its way towards my characters and possibly ambush them, is what that actually means. But let's just take a peek at the other battle aspect card to see how this room is different in whichever is on that card compared to this one. Corpse gas. The undead here are bloated and vile, their skin blotchy and sore. Place 3 timer tokens on this card. When an undead enemy is defeated, discard a token. Then each model in the defeated enemy zone suffers. Oh, nice. Then each model in the defeated enemy zone suffers a poison. If there are no tokens to discard, discard instead. Okay. So basically what this is saying, there's going to be 3 tokens put on this. Each time an enemy is defeated, so place 3 timer tokens on this card. When an undead enemy is defeated, so Either one of these guys, so it'll actually be 2. They're undead. This is a shadow. It's not an undead. Discard a token. Then each model in the defeated enemy's zone. So each one of my models that's in here will be poisoned, is what that is saying. That really sucks. So I have to really think hard about how I want to do this, and maybe utilizing Lightweaver quite a bit because of the ranged attack. Ugh. Okay. So we'll set that card over here. I'm going to grab another D6, and we're going to put 2 timer tokens on that. Ugh. Okay, I'm gonna make the attack on the shadow, see how that goes, and then roll on from there. So, of course, before I do anything, I'm going to tap out my Chronicler. The Chronicler is going to turn this spent faint token on exhausted, which I'm going to immediately exhaust again to use for my Arcane Bolt. I'm going to roll with advantage for that roll. Boom. Taking the 9, which is the best, and I get the shadow has a 10, so that was a gamble, but you know what, sometimes that's the way that the dice fall. Okay, so yeah, that attack was failed, unfortunately, but now it's time to recast all of the initiative and go from there. So this is the what they call the end phase. Now in the rules, what it'll tell you, after 3 terrain areas have been put out onto the board, then it's at that point that you're actually going to roll to see if a random encounter is coming into the area. So I'm going to recast the initiative, and we can finally get rid of this card, this gate crash card, but I'm going to get a -3 to the roll. I'm going to roll a d6. At a 1 or 2, a random encounter will materialize. So what I have, a 2, -8, might as well say it's a 1. Alright. Now the bad thing is, I'm going to put him just outside of that area, into the corridor area here, which will free up this room. Now here is the echo token that is set in that room, and now there's officially a I don't know what random encounter it is. We are about to find out. Okay, first of the batting order, Night Feather, followed by the Rotting Brute, Stoneheart, the Shadow. Ooh, this is going to be an interesting freaking lineup here. Last but not least, Lightweaver. So the initiative is not going the way that I really wanted it to go. And as a matter of fact, it's going the opposite direction that I wanted it to go. So, but that's what's going to make this interesting. Well, shoot, I can finally get rid of this. The gate crasher is going to go away. That's been resolved. Now we're down to the corpse gas. Okay. So, Night Feather. 5, 10, 15. What the hell? 20. I'm going to move him here. I'm going to attack that brute. Hopefully I do good. Piercing strike. I get a +2, actually a +4 to the attack roll for this. Let's see how I do. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, well, I needed a 14, and I did not do it. But luckily, because I did miss with the piercing strike, as you can see, if I missed, I can, at that point, back right out of the room. Boom, around the corner like that. He missed, and he's gone like the mist. Okay, so Rotting Brutes. Now it is their turn, and they move very slowly. So he's going to go 5. I'm going to move him up here. 10. I'm going to see, roll to see which one of these models he attacks. I'll show you how I do that here in a minute. He's going to move 5, 10. Move that way. Okay, so obviously I'm going to say he's going to have a higher probability for attack, the magic user, rather than the rogue, which the rogue's going to be a lot more nimble and able to disappear into the shadows. So with that, I'm going to roll a d6. If it rolls high, then yes, it'll be attacking Lightweaver. If it rolls low, it'll be going after Nightfeather. Let's see how that does. 4. Ooh, well, that breaks the threshold, which means it's going to be on Lightweaver. Alright, so Lightweaver has +1 bonus for defense, and let's see how this is going to roll out, because I'm going to need a 14 or better. Okay, what have I rolled? I rolled a 9, +1 is a 10. No. So Lightweaver has suffered 1 wound. Alright, that hurts. So that'll be the Rotting Brutes. Now it's Stoneheart's turn. So 5, 10, 15, I'm going to say 20, 25. I'm going to put him right there and attack this brute. He's going to get a +2 to the attack roll. 11, 12, 13. No, man, ouch. Needs a 14 or better, and that's a complete miss. Alright, now is the Shadow's turn. If you remember the Shadow, because of the Ghostly Talons, you cannot use your armor bonuses or defense bonuses during your defense roll. The Shadow's going to move up and attack Stoneheart. So I'm going to have to roll a 10 or better to be able to get out of this. Let's get it in the rolling area. 11. Okay, so that's good. That's really good. I'm able to get out of not, another wound marker, possibly having to burn up a healing potion, which I really don't want to do. Last but not least is Lightweaver. Now, unfortunately, I cannot attack adjacent to an enemy like this, so first thing I'm going to have to do is see if I can do what they call a breakaway attempt, which means to see if I can get out of this brute's melee attack range to make an attack. So, target number is going to be a 14, and I do not have any dexterity or anything like that to add to my roll, so this is going to be a straight out roll, 14 or better. Oh, right there, I got an 18, so I'm able to do it. I'm going to go move back out of his striking range. Now I can take my attack roll. First and foremost, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap out the Chronicler. The Chronicler is going to refresh a fate token, which I am going to use a fate token to exhaust to power my arcane bolt attack. I'm going to roll my roll with advantage. Okay, I got a 17. I'll be taking that, which is more than enough to hit the Rotting Brute. Now I can roll the attack, which roll 2d6, taking the best of the two and adding 3 to the attack roll. Okay. 5, which will be 8. The critical threshold for that Rotting Brute is a 6. I got an 8, which is more than enough. It does a critical hit. And let's see here. The undead here. Blah, 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 blah. Place a timer token on the card. When an undead enemy is defeated, discard a token. Then each model in the defeated enemy. Okay. So, this is going to go down to a 1. This is going to hurt. So, now, this model is off the board. I'm going to gain a gold token for that. Here is the bad news. Fortunately, because Stoneheart is in the room, Stoneheart is going to take a poison counter. So there we are. There's the poison counter. I'll put that on Stoneheart's character sheet. Now, the way that poison works, so Lightweaver is done. The initiative order is now done. The poison counter is on there. So now, after I recast the initiative order again, unfortunately, what that means is that you add up your poison counters on your character sheet, and that's how many points of damage your character takes each initiative round. Which you can see why you really want to do a camp really quickly to be able to get them conditions off you. Otherwise, it's just going to end your character really quickly. The other way you can do it is if your character falls, you can burn up a healing potion, which will get rid of all your damage and all of your conditions as well. So, but like I said, it's a finite resource. So you don't really want to burn through them because you only get 3 for the entire game, and this is only the second room out of 11. Alrighty. So now I have Second Wind, last card I gotta use, and I think I'm gonna put that on Stoneheart. Stoneheart is going to attack the shadow, and I'm gonna get the shadow out of here. Hopefully this works. I'm gonna use Balanced Strike. So come on, I gotta have a 10 or better. I get a +2 to my attack roll. 7, 8, 9. I don't understand. Tonight this character is just doing a horrible. There's no 2 ways to explain it. Okay, so you missed. That attack roll did not go off well. That was it. That card has been exhausted, and now it is time to recast the initiative. Now that it's the end of the round, I have to roll a d6 and see if the Wandering Encounter has moved. So let's do that. On a 1 or a 2, it will move. A 1. Okay. So the Wandering Encounter has now moved up into this area, and I'm going to randomly draw a Wandering Encounter card, and I want to see what it is. This should be interesting. Oh, it is an Ettercap. Lovely. Just lovely. Predator. If this enemy hits a hero with an attack, place it in the same zone as the hero. Then flip this card, and the enemy then takes another turn. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I have this guy. It's kind of cool I get to put this model out on the board. And let me grab that model real quick. here is the Eder cap. Rather a horrible looking beast, but now I can put a face to the wandering encounter. I think this is going to be a very quick game. I don't think they're going to survive too much longer. This is just going to be, a slaughter fest here is what this is going to be. Alright, yeah, so let's get that initiative order going. Oh, I can put the Eder cap now into the initiative lineup because that's now in the same zone as my other two, and this out of this is just gonna, there's no two ways of looking. This is gonna be bad. This is just gonna be bad. It's just there's just no two ways of looking at this. All right. Okay, first one will be Nightfeather. Second wind. Next one will be the Eder cap. Surprise, surprise. Followed by Lightweaver. Followed by the Shadow. Followed by Stoneheart. And then the Rotting Brute. Ooh, we're about ready to witness a total party kill here. Okay, Nightfeather first. Ooh. Okay, so this is kind of good, kind of not. So basically what this says by its symbol on its card, because it has this devour symbol, is, you know, if there was another enemy in this zone as my characters and they had a lower initiative value than him, he would pretty much attack that model first and try to kill it and then move on to killing one of my characters. But since there's not, that's just kind of in void, and we're going to go off of what the Eder cap is going to do. So I think probably the smartest thing for me to do is to take Nightfeather and move Nightfeather this way. Go 5, 10, 15. I'm going to just, might as well face the music and get this out of the way. Alright. +4, using a piercing strike to the attack roll. Okay, I got a total of 11. The Eder cap is a 12. That was a total miss. He's going to be able to back up to here, but it's not going to save him, because this is going to get... Oh, and I forgot to resolve the damage for the poison for Stoneheart. I'm going to do that right now. Here's the other damage. Just back up to 3, which is the camp was useless. Looking at this point, now it's the Eder cap's turn. The Eder cap is just going to go looking at Nightfeather, thinking it's been a while since I've had a chicken dinner. So, luckily, he does have 2 to his defense. My defense roll has got to be a 12 or better, so I'm going to have to roll a 10 or better to be able to withstand a hit from him. Oh, 17. That works. So I was able to withstand that attack this turn. Lightweaver, I'm just going to stay the course. I'm going to tap the Chronicler. The Chronicler is going to unexhaust the Fate token, which I'm going to exhaust again to power Arcane Bolt. I'm going to roll with advantage. My target is going to be this brute right here and get him out of the way. Yeah, I know it's going to suck for Stoneheart because, but what else can I do? I mean, we are just getting annihilated here. Oh, well, the highest one I rolled is a 6. And despite my best efforts, yeah, that was a waste. So now we move on to the Shadow. The Shadow is going to attack Stoneheart because he's adjacent to him. And I cannot use any of my defense. So I'm going to have to roll a 10 or better. A 15, that's good. That is very good. Alright. Now it's Stoneheart's turn. Oh, come on, Stoneheart. You gotta do something here, buddy. Okay, so I get a +2 attack. Let's see how this works. That's a 12. The Shadow is a 10, so it is a hit. So now let's roll for the damage. I do a D8 +3, and let's see where my damage falls in. That's an 8. Its critical threshold is a 3, so I do critical damage. The Shadow is destroyed, taken off the board, and I will gain 1 gold coin for that. Okay. Now, that took care of Stoneheart. The last one will be the Rotting Brute, and then I can resolve my second wind. The Rotting Brute is going to move up. It's 5 foot, and he's going to attack. So my defense roll is going to have to be a 14 or better. So I'm going to need to roll an 11 or better with my 3 bonus to my defense. A 12, that works. I am able to defend against that attack. Now I get my second wind, and the second wind's going to go on Stoneheart, and I'm going to try to take this brute right out. So, using Balanced Strike, get a +2 to that roll. No, it does not work out. Okay, well, let's redo the initiative, and because I still have the poison token on him, I take another point of damage. To Stoneheart, which he has a life of 5, he has now 4. If this is not resolved to where he can set camp up this round, then he will have fallen by the next. Succumb to the poison. Alright, so first batting order, Stoneheart, followed by Nightfeather, the Ettercap, Lightweaver, Shadow. Oh, no, sorry. Shadow's been defeated. Shadow is gone. And the Rotting Brute, which is the last 2 left on the board. Alright, so Stoneheart, he's already engaged battle with this brute. Might as well just get this out of the way. Get a +2 to the roll. Oh my god. Oh god, you just gotta laugh at this point. You just gotta laugh. So he missed miserably. The The next attack will be Nightfeather, who is currently engaged in combat with the Ettercap, and I'm going to have a 12 or better with the Piercing Strike attack. I do get to add my dexterity into this attack, so he's going to get a +2 for the attack roll for the Sapphire Cluster, and a +2 ability, which give him a +4 grand total. And that's an 8. That's not enough. It just is not enough. Because he did miss, he can back out of the immediate threat range. Okay. But the bad thing is, this guy has a 10-foot radius range. I mean, if you look at these long gangly arms, that he is able to swing them things around and attack anybody he wants. Which means, is he going to attack Nightfeather, or is he going to attack Lightweaver? Well, once again, back to the D6. Let's see what the probability is. If it's 3 or above, we'll say 4 through 6, it's Lightweaver. 1 through 3, it's Nightfeather. Nightfeather. So the Ettercap is going to position himself like so, to flop one of them horrible arms at him. I'm going to have a defense roll of 12 or better to get out of this. Let's hope this is a good roll. So I do get 2 bonus to my defense, so I have to have a 10 or better. Ooh, 15. So I was able to successfully evade that attack, this roll. Lightweaver, what do we do here? Shoot. Okay, I'm going to tap out Lightweaver, same thing. The Chronicler's going to be tapped. I'm going to unexhaust the Fate token just to exhaust it again, to add to Arcane Volt. I'm going to move him up 1 closer distance to the Brute, and I'm going to try to take this Brute out. I'm going to roll with advantage. Taking the 15. The 15 does hit. Rolling 2d6, taking the highest, and adding my intelligence bonus to that roll, which will be a 3 plus 2 is a 5. Now, unfortunately, 6 is the critical threshold, so I do not do a critical hit. I do just a 1 point of damage. So I will put a wound token out there. It's almost kind of like at this point you don't want to kill him, but you know, it is what it is. Because if you do, well, yeah. Okay, Rotting Brute's turn. The Rotting Brute is going to attack Stoneheart, and I'm going to have a 14 or better defense roll with a +3 bonus for my defense, which means I'm going to have an 11 or better. I have a 2. I have failed miserably. I have taken a point, which now kills Stoneheart. Stoneheart is now officially dead until I use up a healing potion and I can get one of my characters close enough to administer the healing potion. But for all points and purposes, Stoneheart is out of the game. I'm going to pull the initiative card out of the initiative order. I do have Second Wind, and Second Wind I'm going to put on Nightfeather. I'm going to have Nightfeather try to do an attack on this Ettercap and take this Ettercap out. This thing is just horrible. So I'm going to get a +4 to my attack. An 11. There'd be a 15. I have to have the target number for the Ettercap is a 12, so I do hit. I'm going to do my damage now because he is the adjacent to him, so I'm going to roll 2d6, taking the highest of the 2 and adding 2 more points of damage to that. which is 2, obviously, and that'll be 4. His critical threshold is a 5, so I do not do a critical hit. I'm just going to do 1 point of damage. So I'll mark that there. And he gets to move back as he's cornered 5 feet this way. Okay. Oh boy. Let's see how this is going to end. Total party kill here. I think this is where my story ends in Bardsung. Okay, first in the batting order will be the Rotting Brute, followed by the Ettercap, then Nightfeather, and Lightweaver. Okay, Rotting Brute first. The Rotting Brute is going to move towards Lightweaver. I'm just going to move him off the game board right now, so he's going to move up 5. He's now within melee attack. I'm going to have a 14 or better. I do have a +1 defense bonus for him. So he rolls a 19, which is good. I evade the attack. Okay, the Ettercap. The Ettercap's going to attack Nightfeather. Oh boy. Do I have 12 or better? I do have a 2 +2 bonus for defense. It's a 7. No, I'm going to take another point of damage. So, actually, that's Nightfeather's first point of damage, so I get a little wiggle room there. Alright. Now it's Nightfeather's turn. Might as well just engage the freaking enemy, get a +4 to my attack roll. Ooh, 18. Okay, that's definite hit. 2d6, taking the highest and adding a 2 bonus. Take the 5, that'll be a 7. His critical threshold is a 5. I do a critical, which will be 2 points, which is good. Now the bad thing is, this card's going to flip to its other side now. Its heat up side. So now, back on the hunt, if there aren't any heroes in the same zone as the enemy at the start of its turn, flip this card, which means it would go back to the cooldown. But because it is, and he only has 1 hit point left, this ought to be interesting. Pretty much nothing else has changed about the card. That's just about it. But I can add 2 more wound tokens. For the Ettercap. Okay, now here is the problem. I cannot be adjacent to make an attack. If I move back here, I'm gonna be I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm damned if you do and damned if you don't. But the only thing I can do is try to take a 5-foot step back, which is only going to put me in striking distance of the Ettercap, and hopefully this attack works and it drops that brute. So, well, of course, I'm going to tap out the Chronicler, which you already know what that's going to do with the Fate token. It's going to power up Arcane Bolt. I'm going to roll with advantage. Ugh. That hurts. That hurts. I missed. And that is that. Now I do get a second wind. I'm going to put the second wind on... I'm going to put it on Lightweaver. I'm going to burn up another Fate token, power up Arcane Bolt again. Ooh yeah, this time I'm going to take the 17, which definitely does hit the brute. I'm going to roll the 2d6, taking the highest and adding the 3 bonus. Should be 4. That'll take it up to 7. Its critical threshold is a 6, which is more than enough, and this brute is now defeated. Okay, so I get another gold coin out of that. Not that it's gonna matter here, it doesn't seem like in a few seconds. And we're going to refresh the initiative round. Alright. Okay, Lightweaver, Ettercap, the Nightfeather. So let's may the best creature win. Alright, Lightweaver, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tap out Chronicler. Chronicler is going to replenish 1 fate token, and I am going to move 5 foot that way. But here's the thing I have to do first. Before I can move, I have to see if I can actually get out of the way of this thing, if I can do a breakaway. Even though I am not engaged in battle with the creature, I am within the striking distance. So I gotta have a 12 or better. I do not have dexterity to add into that, so let's see how this goes. 17, I do it. Alright. So I'm able to take a 5 foot step backwards, which gives me enough distance now to be able to use 1 fate token to power up Arcane Bolt. Do my roll. Oh, cool. I could take the 1 and replenish a fate token, or take the 9. If I take the 9, I'm still not going to hit, and unfortunately that's just the way it is. So I'm gonna take the 1, I'm gonna replenish a fate token, and that'll be the end of his turn. Now it'll be the Ettercap's turn. The Ettercap is going to strike Nightfeather. I'm gonna have to have a 12 or better defense roll here. I do get +2 to my defense, so I gotta have a 10 or better roll. Ha! 8. I do not get it. So Nightfeather is gonna take another point of damage. Okay. Alrighty. So now Nightfeather's turn. And then I got Second Wind card that I have to resolve. We'll see how that goes. I am going to that's all I can do is attack. Piercing Strike. Get a +4 to the attack roll. Ha! So that's a 10. That's not, it's just not enough. I do not hit, but because I did miss, I am able to back up 5 feet out of striking range distance. But unfortunately, he has 10 feet to be able to throw these limbs around. So that sucks. But there's a good thing left. That is, I still do have Second Wind. And I think what I'm going to do with Second Wind, I'm going to give it to Lightweaver. I'm going to cash in a Fate token. I'm going to power up Arcane Bolt. And I'm going to try to take this last encounter out. Oof. I'm going to take the 17. I'm going to roll my 2d6, taking the highest of the 2 and adding my ability modifier bonus into that, which is a 4 + 6, going to take it up to a 7. His critical threshold is a 5, so He does do a critical hit. Not that he needed a regular hit would take him out, but the eder cap has been destroyed. That model is now off the board. I can't believe I actually survived that. Nobody was in the room when the brute went down, so this counter expires, as well as this card. That is completely gone. Go into the discard pile. Thank God. So now with So now, this is the room I went to. There is one treasure chest here, and caption 18, now that this has been resolved. So let's go to 18 first. Let's read that and see. And then I'm going to be winding this video down after that. It says, at last you find a little that will help you with the lift, but at least you aren't completely empty-handed. Draw a card from the Lost Treasure deck. Great, that's pretty much what we know. So I get to draw a card from the Lost Treasure deck. Ooh. Which is a ruby cluster. Add +2 to damage rolls. This is a good one. I'm going to put this with Night Feather stuff, but the last move I'm going to make is they're going to move into this room. We are going to administer a healing potion, which is right here. So I'm going to cross that out. I now have 2 total, which will revive Stoneheart. He will be completely healed and no more poison counters on him. But I'm also going to do something else. I'm going to burn up another firewood, which is only going to leave me with 1. And I hope this works out. This is where I'm going to leave this off. But this ends with them around this fire healing from their wounds. Stoneheart talking about, seeing the white tunnel and all the things you hear from the near-death experience. And along with that, Lightweaver will heal a wound, Night Feather will heal a wound, and yeah, that's where I'm going to end this out. So